Hi, and welcome to What's the Buzz, the only show of its kind that spotlights the entertainment scene in Southern Maryland. I'm your host, James LePore, and this is episode number 257. And I am here at the Port Tobacco Theater in LaPlata, where the Port Tobacco Players are getting ready to open their latest production, The Importance of Being Earnest. Now, I just saw the press performance Wednesday night, and I have to tell you, it's absolutely amazing, and I'm honored that you all have me up here on this stage. We're going to find out all the details about this super funny, time-honored show, too, written and first produced in 1895 at the St. James Theatre in London by Oscar Wilde, written by Oscar Wilde. Producer, Debbie Gilley, down the end. Director Rachel Wallace, and let's have the actors introduce themselves and their roles. Let's start with Caitlin.
Caitlin Bauer-Dieguez, and I played the part of Gwendolyn Fairfax. I never say the whole name.
I know. I'm Anthony Dieguez. I play the part of Jack Earnest Worthing.
Kim Bessler, and I play the part of Miss Prism.
Amanda Martini, and I am Lady Bracknell.
Justin McCrae, and I play a dual role of Lane and Merriman. Mike Gann, Reverend Canon Dr. Chastity.
Cassandra Morris, I'm Cecily Cargill.
Paul Morris, Algernon Moncrief.
Gotcha. Funny thing, as I was getting ready to write the script, I looked back through my files to see if I had ever interviewed a cast of The Importance of Being Earnest. And don't ask me what combination of words I hit, but what comes popping up is Willy Wonka starring Anthony from 11 years ago. And I'm like, okay, this isn't going to help, but it was just kind of like a funny thing. Rachel, why this play?
So I like to joke that I was looking for something more modern, and I still fell about 130 years short. I do a lot of Shakespeare, and I wanted to do something that was just slightly more accessible, a little funnier, so especially, it didn't start out this way, but coming back from COVID, it was nice to do something funny and fun. So that was kind of my goal
Everybody
for this
needs
one.
that.
Yes.
Why, after all these years, 135 years, why is this still funny and relatable?
I think it's because it's really kind of making fun of classism for the most part. If you look at reality TV, these days, it's just you're laughing at rich people and their trivial problems, and that's kind of what you're doing on the stage. You're laughing at rich people and their trivial problems.
And considering the show is so full of comic misunderstandings, I almost see this show as like a Victorian era Three's Company.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, as far as everybody else, if I ask these questions, just throw out your ideas. But what's the overall message that this play conveys?
Silliness.
Oh, I had no idea it was going to be such a stumper question.
The good and happily, the bad and unhappily. And, that is what fiction means.
Now, I have to say, kind of super interesting thing to me is I've never interviewed people in a show where there was not just one married couple, but two. How did that work out for, rehearsals? I guess you guys were doing your lines at home and coming in off book and saying things or
It took us a little longer for the off-book, but yes.
Once upon a time, yes. 2 children later, we all did our lines here.
Gotcha. Now, based on what I saw Wednesday night, Anthony, did you know Paul before this production?
We had met briefly after the show.
Don't say it.
I'm not going to say the name of the
I'll
show.
say it.
Let's not.
Paul and I were just in the Scottish play.
God, that's
And I met him after one of the performances, and that pretty much it before we auditioned together, I think.
And the reason I ask is because the interaction between you two, you really would think you've been friends, your whole lives.
Well,
But that's
spiritually.
yeah, I think so. We have many similarities. We're kind of like the same person, he's just more so.
Now, let's get down to the nitty-gritty here. What or who is a Bunbury?
He's everyone you want to be. He's all of us. Yeah, no, it's. I'm not gonna say that I've used similar things, but to get out of any situation you need, it's your get out of jail free card with those social responsibilities or parties you don't want to go
So
to.
he's not a real person,
No.
but a very convenient excuse.
Very convenient
Heather, next time we have to go to a wedding that I won't want to go to. If I happen to mention Bunbury, you know what I mean.
You need the t-shirt first.
Anthony, does Jack have a fictitious side of his character as well, like Algernon?
Yes, yeah, and that's I think one of the things they bond over. But yes, he has a fictitious brother who he also kind of pretends to be, named Earnest, and that's how he can escape his daily life and all his routine.
Well, sometimes you're in the city, sometimes you're in the country, right? I guess the names are used depending on where you are.
Jack in the country and Earnest in town.
Gotcha. Rachel, let me ask you, Jack and Algernon, the characters, how are they alike and how are they different?
I mean, they're alike in the way that they both come up with this scheme to be able to do whatever they want without the other one knowing, you know, so they both come up with the same thing. I feel like early on you can tell that there's really a bond there that's stronger than, you know, just casual friends between the two of them. They kind of have the same reactions in certain ways to different things, you know, they both kind of have their meltdown at the same time. But as for differences, Oscar Wilde wrote Algernon kind of as a reflection of himself. And Algernon really liked to kind of laugh in the face of high society. And I feel like Algernon really does that, where Jack is much more to the T, to the, you know, the buttoned up kind of the version of he's what he thinks the version of the higher class should be.
That's one of the things I love best about Algernon, is just kind of like footloose and fancy free.
Yep.
And some of the stuff that happens here on the shed is priceless, which I will not reveal. You'll see it yourself when you come to this show. The actual definition of the word earnest means sincere and honest. So I ask everybody, are these two actually earnest or not?
And I think that just really kind of comes with what the show is about when you were asking about like a meeting. Sometimes shows don't have a meeting, sometimes it's just for fun. But like Earnest, it's again, spoiler alert, the last line is the importance of being earnest. Also, take a drink anytime someone says be earnest.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It's a good game to play. But like that's the thing. No one seems to be completely earnest or completely sincere, and that I think is the sort of satire that Wilde was saying, that no one actually is earnest. We all, of course, tout this is what's important and these are the things that we're supposed to do, but no one actually does it.
Gotcha. Justin, you are a typical English butler, would you say? I mean, you're very proper and you do your job impeccably well, and yet, as I guess is typical of many English butlers of the time, you kind of know everything that's going on.
Yeah, I know the backstory. So I've dealt with this guy for a long time. So yes, I know all of his thundering.
Gotcha.
I know what's coming down the road when he says I'm going.
Now, Lady Bracknell, may I say that you are a commanding presence on stage.
Little me?
I went home Wednesday night and I said to Heather, when you see Lady Bracknell, if she tells you to sit down, you damn well sit down. It's it's really the epitome of like the domineering mother-in-law. When you say, do you think that's typical of Victorian times, or are most mother-in-laws like that now?
I mean, look, sorry. I don't know whether or not like the trope started here, but obviously like it is something that like everyone sort of like now knows as a trope, is the overbearing mother-in-law, the overbearing wife, the overbearing just mother in general. And I think that again is part of like the satire. He's making fun of that. Wilde is making fun of that. When trying to explain to friends who don't know Wilde or know the time period, I'm like, well, have you seen Downton Abbey? Do you know Maggie Smith, from that show? People are like, oh yeah, and I'm like, well, that archetype of a character, that's who this is. I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. And I'm like, yeah, she's the lady who walks in, cutting remark, you go do what I need you to do, and then everyone just lets her do whatever she wants.
Because they have to.
Because they have to.
Right. Everybody performs with an English accent, with one exception, which I won't say. How tough is that to affect an English accent and keep it consistent throughout the What?
Well, it was so easy with being around the other people that were doing it, and just the verbiage of Oscar Wilde himself. I mean, if you say the words,
Mm-hmm.
they come out like that. It rolls,
Read the script, yeah.
rolls up the tongue.
Gotcha, it certainly does.
Anthony was also kind of our expert, so obviously
I didn't know about
often.
I've
Be in
watched
the middle of the
I've watched
scene.
a lot of BBC.
A lot.
Yeah,
Oh, that's it.
Yeah.
Good advice for younger actors.
Let's
Debbie,
do
what can audiences expect when they come to see this show?
Hopefully a really good laugh. I had plenty.
Oh, I had plenty Wednesday night. Is it good for all ages?
I'd say content and, yes, I would say it's appropriate for all ages, but I think it's gonna be more around middle school for under senior.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Caitlin, Gwendolyn is obsessed with the name Ernest, is
Yes.
she not? Okay. And she bases her love for Jack on
Yes.
that
Yes, that's
fake name.
That is exactly why she loves him. Because his name is Ernest, and I feel like Gwendolyn and Lady Bracknell, more than anyone, really, it's the appearance of virtue, the appearance of honor, and she has so focused that even the man she marries has to have the appearance of being all these things. She doesn't care if that's the actual truth. I mean, she's blinded to the actual truth because he's obviously lying. And even after a point where she finds out he has been fibbing about something, she's like, he's the very soul of truth and honor. Disloyalty would be as impossible as deception whenever she literally just learned that he has been deceiving her. And it's very much Oscar made her, every word she says is very calculated, everything's for show. And yeah, she's not, Jack is, because he's Ernest, that's why she loves him.
Yep.
And that she's going to marry someone earnest, one way or another. End of show.
Now, Samantha, because I have such a love for some of the lines that you come out with, I'm going to ask, just to tease the audience a little bit, what are Lady Bracknell's views on smoking?
Well, I mean, there are so few, there are too many idle people around, so it's good to have some kind of occupation. An occupation meaning something to do. Like, she definitely views, like, don't have idle hands, you need to be doing something. Madonna also has a great quote of, do something else, do my eyebrows. Where it's like, you need to be doing something, but have it be something that I want you to be doing, instead of doing things that I don't want you to be doing.
Now, Anthony, your character's interview with Lady Bracknell kind of goes a bit awry, doesn't it?
You can say that, yeah.
Would you like to elaborate on that? What does she like and what doesn't she like?
She likes most of the answers he can come up with, but the question of his birth, that's where she draws the line.
Okay, so there's a little mystery surrounding
Yeah,
that, which
yeah.
we won't spoil the audience. Does he like Lady Bracknell?
I would say no, but that doesn't really matter. He
Well,
respect- he
maybe it
respects
does. Don't you have a fear that Gwendolyn, being her daughter, might?
Well, like she said, there's so much surface that he doesn't consider it too long or hard about whether she will one day become like that or not. And if she does, then I think he'll still respect her if he doesn't love her, and that's more just in line with his life.
So, kind of like what Kate was talking about, and we actually were talking about this earlier. For women back in that time, securing that marriage that is going to further you socially, have you being taken care of, is really the vital of importance. Like, you need to know that you're going to be taken care of for the rest of your life, because women couldn't have jobs. Women couldn't hold things without their husbands. I mean, hell, my mom had to get her first credit card as Mrs. Matthew Sagers when they were, and I think at Pet Company or whatever it is now, that she's Mrs. Matthew Sagers on her credit card. So like, that's why it's so important that it's like, yeah, he's got money, he's got this, he's got that, but when it comes to a question of birth, well, that's not gonna secure my daughter what it is that she needs in order to have the most successful life. So, bye, next.
Now, Cassandra, I mean, you will only get married based on Lady Bracknell's approval, yes? And how do you actually finally get her to agree to marry?
Well, I have a theory that, and at one point, we sneak out, and so we have the running theory that whatever she says, we would end up in the world of the play, it is because there's some money in the funds. So I think that kind of brings it around.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
How important is food in this play? I mean, there's a lot of food going on here. Any comments about the food?
So what we do with the food in the show, compared to what's written for the food in the show, probably maybe 20% of what we do is written. Everything else we came up with,
Okay.
food-wise, for in this. So
I
it's
understand cucumber sandwiches are a big thing.
cucumber
right?
sandwiches and muffins, yes. Those are
Gotcha.
the big ones.
Now, all the actors, did you watch any one of the movie productions? Were you encouraged to not, or yes watch, or you just did it on your own?
I think I had seen scenes from the one with Judi Dench and Colin. Is it Colin Firth?
Yeah.
I think I had seen scenes from it, but I didn't remember it. That well. I remembered The Ideal Husband more than I remembered. But I had seen Earnest. God, maybe back in college, I think. So. I hadn't really seen or heard anything, but Rachel didn't say not to, but at the same time, you also kind of want to get like your own feel. As I said earlier, I actually rewatched some Downton Abbey episodes.
Oh yeah. What
I didn't tell them not to watch it, but I also told them I hated it. So
As if I didn't know the answer to this, who has the most fun with their role?
Paul.
Yeah, I had a feeling it always had to go with Paul on that, especially in Act 1. I mean, the very definition of bon vivant is on display, and I think everybody will really enjoy that. Who did the costumes?
Lisa McGee.
Aha, I see. And lighting?
Angela McLean.
Burrow. Yes.
I was just chatting with her too, and I honestly, as an audience member, I don't really particularly pay too much attention to the lighting, which I guess is kind of what you're supposed to do. But I happen to notice that the lighting design for this show is gorgeous.
Yeah,
There were
it's very
scenes
pretty.
that were just so warm and inviting. I had to do everything I could not to come up on the stage and have a cucumber sandwich. So thank you for the amazing lighting.
Paul would have handed you one.
I'll have to remember.
But,
I'll get one for you.
but don't.
And the set. Who do we have to thank for this beautiful set, which changes for each one of the three acts?
That's Chris McGee.
Chris McGee,
Yep.
gotcha. Is it he, she? He. Has he been doing sets here long? It's not a name I recognize.
Yes, he has. He's done most of the ones for the last couple seasons. He's done the last couple of mine as well. So.
Okay,
I was gonna say he's pretty much done almost every show for the past year. Well, at least since COVID. Yeah. So it's like the past year.
But it used to be the Merritt Brothers, right? I mean, when I was on this stage, which was in 2013, the Merritt Brothers had done the stage. And it was
Right. Yeah, he kind of, I think one of his first couple shows he did with them and then kind of stepped into their shoes, and we are very grateful for it.
Gotcha. Debbie, how long is the play?
About 2.5 hours, but that includes 2 10-minute intermissions.
And I gotta say, it sounds like a long time, but when you're actually watching it, it goes by like a snap. I kept turning to my daughter Amanda saying, "Is that an intermission already?" I was going to get so involved in the story. The show runs from May 7th to May 22nd. Ticket prices are $18 for adults, but if you're a student, military, or a senior, you can get in for $15. Cheap money. You can also get season passes too. So if you go to ptplayers.org, you'll find information about getting season passes and things like that.
FEPTplayers.com.
Not .org. You know, I typed in .org before; it must automatically route you to .com.
Oh, that's.
But I
great.
appreciate you letting everyone know. If your browser does not send you to the right place,
I think
remember what Mike said.
pt.org is the Bunbury of.
Great. Now, a question we have to ask is, your audience is going to ask, what are the current COVID safety protocols that people should know when they come to the show? Anybody?
Well, currently, sorry, Mike and I are on the board, so we're part of these decisions. Currently, masks are still optional, but you must have either proof of vaccination or a negative PCR test within the 72 hours before you come to the show, and you have to bring either a picture or the physical test results and your vaccine card, or you can have a picture of the vaccine card, and we'll be checking those at the door.
And masks are.
As of right now, they're optional. That's
Okay.
depending on how COVID goes, if we have an
Yeah,
uptick,
yeah,
we
true.
have to do what we have to do to protect our patrons and our cast members, so.
Gotcha. Well, I'm very cognizant of the fact that you folks go on live your opening night in just a very short period of time. So Heather and I should probably get off the stage. So this is a good time to thank all of you for having us here. I want to thank our sponsor, Purple Post Real Estate. I want to thank my producer and lovely wife, Heather LePore, for doing everything. And Reggie Rice, our creative consultant. If any of you or companies would like to be an additional sponsor of What's the Buzz, please reach out to us on the Facebook page. Thank you again for having us here, and people who are watching this, please like, share, comment, do all the YouTube and Facebooky things. We appreciate it more than you know, because we will never, ever stop supporting the arts in Southern Maryland. Everybody treat yourself to a night of laughter that happens right here on the stage in front of you. It is infinitely more fulfilling than watching TV. I guarantee it. And that's about it. You, my friends, have been watching What's the Buzz? Take care, and we will see you soon.